Hello, I'm James Cook, and this is the James Cook Podcast. Hey, personality. It is definitely what is needed in the world of radio. People love to identify with the voice on the radio. It helps whenever you have a lovely, quirky mouthpiece like the person I am speaking with today. I'm talking with Corliss from College Station. Corliss, how you doing today?
I'm good. It's weird to be called a mouthpiece.
We're already kicking it off on the right
Right?
note. Just banter. This is what happens. Well, what town did you grow up in? You grew up in Kansas, right?
I did, and it's a little middle of nowhere town that nobody would ever know the name of. It's called Hoisington. So I always tell people I'm from Great Bend, Kansas. Not that you'd actually know where that was either. But it was the next biggest thing to kind of put a landmark.
Yeah.
That's just a little country bumpkin from the middle of nowhere.
Say the town again.
Hoisington.
Hoisington.
I think you're trying too hard.
I think it's what it is. The radio station that you first started with that got you going, because you started when you were 18 years old.
17.
17.
Yeah, I was still a senior in high school.
Okay. And was there a place that opened up, or how did you get in the radio biz?
So I was finishing up high school, obviously senior year. It was either get into radio or enlist in the Navy. And I didn't really, I started kind of going back on my lifelong dream of joining the Navy. And I'm like, I don't know if I want to do that. So I told my dad that I wanted to work in radio, and I started talking to a professor at Kansas State University to ask, how do you get into radio? And really, they said, take whatever small job you can and work your way up. So my dad just so happened to have the general manager of my local radio station at his office one day and said, hey, do you happen to have any work available for my daughter? She'll change the trash. I mean, it doesn't matter. And they said, yeah, we have a position open for a board op. So at 17, I started operating boards for Help Information Please, which was a doctor show, and a Trinity Lutheran Church program. So I worked every Saturday and Sunday.
Can you tell me something about my medical condition today?
Oh,
Do
gosh.
I look like I have jaundice?
I don't know if I can remember any of those.
So
really, you got to remember, I was a kid that had been out on the weekends. And so I had to I turned the program on and I turned it off. That's all I did. Yeah.
When did you first get your, first DJ job, and what kind of music format was it?
So same station. We had a cluster of stations. But while I was their main board op there, they did an update to their system and was able to allow voice tracking. So I got to start recording each and every Sunday from 1 to 6 a program on 100.7 Eagle Country. And so as a country format was always the dream.
Okay.
And yeah, so I got to start doing Sundays, I think, when I was like 19.
You were doing country music. Was that the style that you listened to growing up, or?
Yeah, well, really, I grew up listening to everything. But country concerts were always the equalizer there. Like, I grew up loving Elvis and the Beatles. I also love metal. I love All That Remains and Avenged Sevenfold and Metallica. But radio-wise, I had met a radio DJ at a country music festival, and she got me meet and greets for Cross Canadian Ragweed, and that was it. That was the summer before my senior year, and I was like, that's what I'm gonna do. So yes, country was always the goal, not just because it's what I listened to, it was kind of a way of life for us.
Yeah. So is the Cross Canadian Ragweed, was that the first introduction to the Texas Red Dirt scene?
No, because I didn't know that existed. I thought they did the song with Leanne Womack, Sick and Tired.
Yeah, so
they played on CMT all the time. I didn't learn about Red Dirt or Texas country until I moved to Manhattan, Kansas, and saw Casey Donahue. And shortly after that is when I started DJing at a club, which was a Texas-based club. It was a rockin' rodeo. They had one in Manhattan, Kansas. They had Stoney LaRue come by and play. And so that's where it grew, was not actually radio. It was from me DJing in bars and clubs.
What brought you to Oklahoma?
Stoney LaRue.
He just picked you in the truck.
Right?
He said, "You're coming with me. Oklahoma breakdown, baby. We're doing this."
And he probably doesn't even remember this. I was just having a chat with him and I'm like, what's my next step? Because I don't really know what I'm doing. I feel like I should move on and up in the world. And he was aware of my love of the genre. And he said, I really think it's probably time for you to go to Texas. If not Texas, at least get to Oklahoma. And lo and behold, a week after speaking with him about that, a position in Stillwater, Oklahoma opened up and I applied. I accepted. And once I saw Stoney LaRue again, he was like, "What are you doing here?" And I was like, "You told me to come here. I did what you said."
So you went to the thick of it. Stillwater is what is just known for, Jason Boland, that scene, The Great Divide, these big names that were coming out from that area, and you go to the thick of it in Oklahoma. Now, around that time, I believe Chance Anderson is doing a lot of work in Oklahoma.
Did you get a chance? Yeah.
You got a chance?
I got a chance to see Chance twice.
Nice.
This was also Reed Southall's start. If you're a Reed Southall fan, I was there right when they recorded their first record. They brought in Serenade to me at the station and we promoted a show at the Tumbleweed, which ended, and I got to go announce for, it was Ben McKenzie and Reed Southall Band, and getting to watch them grow and then moving to Texas afterwards and everybody just loves them. And I was like, man, I used to just hang out with these guys at the bar.
Who else did you, is Stillwater's still kind of living off that vibe from the giants that we know today. Was there anybody else that you remember from the Stillwater area?
So we've talked about the Gypsy Cafe event before, and that's a big fundraiser every year at some downtown bars, including Eskimo Joe's. It's a bunch of those Red Dirt artists coming together and performing together to benefit the Red Dirt Relief Fund. And I got to see Stoney LaRue and Brandon Jenkins sing Feet Don't Touch the Ground together just a few months before we lost Brandon. I kid you not. There's
beautiful moment.
It's burned in my mind. Yeah. You can't be more thankful for something like that. Mike Hosty always played around there as well. If you ever get a chance to see a Mike Hosty show, he's a one-man band. And most of his songs are pretty much just comedy. Don't wear makeup because your eyeliner will run all the way down your face. It's so funny all the time. Right. But he wrote Oklahoma Breakdown.
So, he did?
Yeah.
I didn't know that. Well, this is the best thing about these things. I learned so much. So you finally made a move to Texas. Now, see, that is where I met you. I had met you in Oklahoma.
Super sneaky, yes.
And then you were like, yeah, don't you remember me? We totally talked for the first time in Stillwater. And I was like, I totally forgot I'd remembered the conversation. I just didn't remember where it was.
I met you the last week. I was at Stillwater.
Oh, that's okay. Then that was the transition.
I was moving.
And then also check this out. You're going to Texas. You're in the thick of it. You're in a college town. Crazy.
I've always been in college towns. I was in Manhattan, Kansas, Stillwater, Oklahoma, and then College Station, man.
Yeah. So this is just this is you. You know how to do this. So whenever you got there, how was the transition? Were you still checking out the same bands? Were there new bands that you checked out in College Station?
So by that time, everybody I had pretty much worked with in Stillwater because of the Tumbleweed Dance Hall. So, Cody Johnson, I had already announced for several times. Kyle Park, got to know him really well during my time in in Oklahoma. So no, while I was working I was on a top 40 station there and a country station, and my former PD would teach me how he does music. So that's where I learned about Texas charts and working with the music. So no, I was already pretty familiar, but when I went to KORA, that was when we actually had artists coming in constantly, and there were more venues. So that was the difference in the music, was actually getting to see people and meet people.
So you would come to College Station initially to work for KORA, and then you started working for the Maverick. Did you take that over, or did you get that going? How did that work out?
I did. I took a long break, which was my first break ever, because usually in radio, you move from one job to another within a week of getting the job. It's very quick. So I took a long break, and this local station, Maverick, had already been established, but they got a hold of me asking me if I'd want to come in and do something a little bit different. And so I came in and did something a bit different.
Was it originally a Texas Red Dirt format, or?
No. It was pretty much just a strictly like top 40 country radio station, which is great, but we already had another one of those kind of stations in town. Okay. So there's a lot of country radio stations here, a lot of great country radio stations, to be honest with you. And so what I did was I just flipped the format to all Texas, Red Dirt, Americana, independent artists.
Let's talk a little bit about those artists from the area, those Aggie Land artists that you kind of get to utilize for Maverick, who are some of the people that you really get to connect with.
So we were able to just do a category, and it's at least once an hour, you hear a local artist. They could have, like William Clark Green went to high school here. Lyle Lovett. But we've also got all the new artists like Morgan Ashley or John Stork. John Stork lived here a long time. So when you listen to Maverick 100.9, you hear at least one of our Aggie Land artists a day. And we do branded intros, like Donis Moras does a intro to his new song, and he says, "Hi, I'm Donis Moras, and I'm an Aggie Land artist," because, I spent the best 4 years of my life here, meaning he's an Aggie.
The College Station vibe, was there bands that kind of just blew you away in College Station the first time you saw them? And you could just
like the people that are actually from here?
Yeah, from around the area. Or just somebody that you saw happen to see there.
I got a great example, Mike Ryan. Oh. I watched Mike Ryan in Kansas at a bar across the street from my house, and nobody there knew him. I saw him at a music festival that John Party was headlining. Nobody showed up early for Mike Ryan. I did. He played in Stillwater for homecoming, but it was just outside of a frat house. It was free. Nobody was watching him. I was fangirling. And then finally, I get to Texas. I go to see Mike Ryan at Hurricane Harry's. Mind you, it's my first time meeting him, and I just blubbered all over him. I'm like, "Dude, I'm your biggest fan. This is too cool." And then to see Hurricane Harry's packed full of people singing his songs, I was like, how do all of you know his songs?
That is a weird thing with College Station, is that I notice that not only do they love the scene, they're very familiar with each and every song. I remember going there one time and hearing a Coetzel song for the first time, and people singing the song like it was freaking Journey. I mean, they were just like singing it and feeling it. And I was like, what is this? And I remember I just finished a set at another bar, and I went to this bar and I hung out with some of the people that were there. And I said, well, who is this? And they were like, oh, it's Coetzel. And I'd already heard of him, but I hadn't heard him. And I remember saying, well, that's crazy that I don't know any of these songs, but they just know every lyric to every song.
And I met all of them once again in Oklahoma, and it was kind of a no big deal. I met Co-Wetzel and Reed Southall. I had just announced a Parker McCollum show before I had left.
Yeah.
And then you come here and it's sold out shows. You can't breathe.
Yeah.
And it's sheer happiness. The difference was extraordinary. And once again, that's what I get nerdy about. I love watching that growth of an artist. It's so cool.
You're trying to make sure you're cool. You know.
I just don't anymore. I just
love it. Love it.
Everybody's ask Mike Ryan who his biggest fan is. He's gonna be like, it's that crazy blonde from College Station. Stay away.
So was that one of the artists that just kind of blew you away the first time? Is there any out there that you could think of that just like as soon as you heard them, you knew they've got something? This is incredible.
Oh, Cody Johnson, yeah.
Oh yeah.
And I had heard him early on and started going to his shows. I was a really big JB and the Moonshine Band fan.
Yeah.
And I got to see them once, but by the time I moved down here, there was really
no
more.
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah. But people shock me every day. There's a kid named Cameron Hobbs. Have you ever heard him?
Oh, Cameron. Yeah, I know Cameron.
Oh my word. He opens his mouth and I start crying and I don't know why. I can't control myself. So, I mean, yeah, there's people that shock me each and every day.
Is there a reason why you think people are attracted to this scene?
So, say you go to a live show and you get to see how people react to someone, okay? Well, when you watch Kyle Park stand until 2:00 in the morning after his show, having a full-blown conversation with each and every person that bought a ticket to see him, it strikes a different chord. And when you ask people, do you know this Kyle Park song? And they say no, and you get to play it for them, and you see their eyes light up and they're like, wow, I didn't know something like this existed. And that's it. It's not a matter of disliking one side of the genre. It's just shining a light on there's more. So if you're ever unhappy with what you're listening to, it's just always good to keep in mind that there is more. You just got to find it. There's no need to dislike anything. You just got to find what you like.
Definitely. Good stuff. You're such a positive person, Corliss. I love this. So let's get to some nitty-gritty. Do you have any backstage stories that you're not supposed to tell me that you're going to go ahead and tell me on the podcast because you're awesome?
I have so many good backstage stories. I have a few favorite Cody Johnson stories just because I'm a huge fan and I see him a lot, and I am very fortunate to get to work with him a lot.
That's awesome. Is he live there?
He does, and his whole band lives here, but I worked with him a ton in Oklahoma. Well, I was hosting, I think it was the 2017 Cafe. Okay. Maybe it was 2016, somewhere around there. Cody Johnson had really gained that national popularity. Obviously, Kojo's always been famous in Texas, but he headlined Cafe that year. And it was 16,000 people. I am just filled with terror from head to toe because I have horrible stage fright. That's a lot of people to be yelling at. And one, I always thought it was so weird that he even says hi to me. So, we're backstage chatting, and there was a moment where, so here's 16,000 people that are there to see him. He stood right on the edge of the stage and looked at all of them and just watched them. And nobody knew he was there, or else they would have rushed that side of the stage. Nobody knew he was there. And I asked him if I could take a picture because it was just a cool moment. And I did. I snapped a little photo of him just being humble and soaking in what was his and what he had worked for. And I thought that was such a magical moment. I have that picture framed in my home. And then, my stage fright came into play as well. And he had to give me a pep talk.
Cody backstage is one of the coolest human beings ever.
Yeah.
He is very humble. He's very real. And
Yeah.
the last time I hung out with him backstage, Tracy Bird opened for him, and he was sitting right there, and the look on his face was almost like he was being blown away for the first time. So I went up to him and said, "Hey, is this the first time that you're sitting here watching him open?" He's like, "Nah, I've seen him every night." Like every night he would just go up there and watch Tracy Bird and get a Tracy Bird show. And that's how he got in the zone and all. And also, I don't know if you saw that part, the way they pump themselves up right before the show. They said, "Oh, that's such a cool moment that I actually pumped me up." And I was just going to introduce him. I was just like,
yeah, you're like that.
I feel it.
But we
Come
do. We
on.
also give, Cody Johnson so much credit, but what the side that people don't see backstage is his entire crew, whether it's his crew, whether it's his band. Talk about just a group of phenomenal musicians, and you're in their presence.
Yeah.
Cody Johnson aside, you're still in the presence of some of the greatest musicians that will have ever lived. And it's such an aura of talent and a pure love of music that it's the dream. It's what we all came here for. But that would have to be the focus, the work. There's no better adrenaline rush than trying to stay out of an artist's way while they're working.
Yeah.
I think that it's what makes me scared, and I hate it, but it's also there's a rush from it because that's their job, and they're working so hard. Nobody knows that. Nobody knows the lead up.
Yeah, all the stuff that has to happen in order for them to get to where they are. So let's do some questions. I love asking these because I get weird answers every time. Best thing about your job, and I don't mean the job that you have right now. I mean, of course, just being a DJ in the scene.
The people, and that means all people, whether it's artists, new artists, big artists, clients, people that advertise with your station, getting to know your local businesses, getting to know your listeners and what they love. It's just people all the way around make your job worth it. It's weird. You don't depend on yourself at all. You depend on others and meeting them, and it makes me so happy.
That's great. You're a people person, so I can see how you'd love to do that. Let's go. Complete opposite of that. What's the worst thing about that job?
I know everybody probably says this, but it would have to be the pay. It's really hard to eat. It is. Yeah. And sometimes you get perks. Like every once in a while, I get to go to a concert.
I got a platter of cheese. That's nice.
Yeah, every once in a while, someone will bring you donuts. That's the best. That's the best thing, because when you have it, and there has been times in my career where I've gone 3-4 days without eating. If somebody shows up with food, you never know when you're actually saving an entertainer from starvation. So thank you, all of you who have fed me over the years.
Oof, I'm thinking right now, locally for me, the Winthorst sausage feed. They bring us the sausage the weekend before they have it.
Oh yeah.
And honestly, it's just this huge trough that just start chowing down on sausage. So yeah, the food is always great. All right, let's do some rapid fire questions. I'm going to ask you some questions. You just answer as quick as possible. Here we go. Northgate or 6th Street?
Northgate. Never been to 6th Street.
Oh, now we have plans. Documentary or reality TV?
Oh, documentary.
Okay. Acoustic listening room or honky tonk?
Oh, why are you mean?
That's a hard one. I knew that was going to get you.
Acoustic. Yep.
Okay. Tex-Mex or barbecue?
Barbecue.
Okay. Last one. Favorite festival to attend?
How dare you? What is wrong with you? It'll have to.
Oh, that would hurt.
It'll have to be my first and always festival, which doesn't even have the same name now, but it was called Country Stampede in Manhattan, Kansas. Now it's Heartland Stampede in Topeka, Kansas. But my parents have been taking me since I was 5-6 years old. it's where I decided that I was going to work in radio. It's where my boyfriend works every summer. He has since he was 14. It's our family and it's our everything. So Country Stampede would have to be my festival, but there's so many. Festivals are live.
That one hurts everybody because they're like, "Oh, why'd you bring up festivals? You know, we
Like,
can't
what's
go to festivals
wrong
right now."
with you?
Uncool,
You're
bro.
so sick.
That one has been hurting people lately. I love the question, but the look on everybody's face, like, why you gotta bring that up, bro? Oh man. Well, Corliss, we've been speaking with my great friend and radio personality from the College Station area. Corliss, she is on Maverick 100.9 Aggieland's Country Alternative. And she also, there it is right there.
Hey.
She also hosts our weekly show with me, the Cook and Corliss Countdown Textravaganza, which I love saying. Thank you so much for joining us on the James Cook Podcast.
Thank you for having me.